Hello my friends and welcome back. 2025. Welcome to 2025 first video on this channel. Now I had a very nice vacation and now I'm back. What happened at the meantime? Not much. Well, actually, quite a lot did happen. Just a sneak peek before we get into what happened yesterday in Ukraine, because that's pretty big. During Christmas in the Ukrainian front lines, you could see that flying Christmas tree. You know, the one that brings you joy and warmth. Drones do miracles. This is a Christmas miracle bringing Christmas feeling to all of the Ukrainian troops. Also, Ukrainian troops do need to rest also, so they release their bioweapons to do the work for them during Christmas times. Here we can see a Ukrainian cat. Did you see that? It was extremely fast. Bada beam, wow wow wow, the cat destroyed a Russian drone with his paw. Like that. And it's down. Yeah, bioweapons, they do that. Look, coming in to confirm the kill. The bioweapons, they do the work when Ukrainian troops are resting. Russian biggest fears are becoming a reality. Alright, all jokes aside, my friends, we'll go through everything that happened in my 2 weeks of a break, and I'm sure you saw everything on Jake Bro's channel. I'll just go through it later in the video. Today we're gonna touch on two big topics that happened yesterday. So fresh, totally new, 24 hours. Yesterday, Ukrainians started a new counteroffensive in Kursk. Yeah, Russian Kursk. They started attacking Russians' lines from three sides, three areas. And the second topic is Lex Friedman. Let's focus first on the Kursk, and we'll go through all of the visuals and information there is out of that area. First of all, Fighterbomber, one of the biggest Russian military bloggers, Telegram channels, whatever you want to call it. He is known for sometimes posting anti-Kremlin information from the front, because he wants to post the mistakes of the Russian army so people can learn from it, and he has a beef with the Kremlin. The point is, why I'm quoting him is I know he is sometimes has a beef with the Kremlin, therefore he has no incentive to lie. And I quote him, "We can't drop fabs or use drones. Ukrainian electronic warfare is jamming everything." Fighterbomber. This is massive. When their electronic warfare shuts down even guided bombs, you know the game has changed. What Ukrainians did yesterday, they started a surprise offensive with armored vehicles. I mean, probably they waited for the ground to freeze to use the armored vehicles, because before it was all mud. What was the biggest surprise was a massive usage of electronic warfare. We're talking about spoofing, jamming, hijacking the connection, everything that goes under electronic warfare. I'll read you this paragraph here also. It gives us very good summarizing info. Kursk offensive. He states that their drones drop from the sky and they are forced to revert to using binoculars to locate targets. Now, Fighterbomber is talking about recon drones not working because of electronic warfare and jamming. Thing is, if your recon drones don't work and your army is very heavily relying on artillery superiority, I mean, artillery is guided by recon drones. If they don't work, you cannot fire your artillery or you're blind. And you gotta revert back to using binoculars, meaning you just cannot hit the target. Your drones cannot hit the target, meaning Ukrainians can actually attack. Their vehicles can actually reach Russian lines. He also has a less than positive assessment of their ability to slow the advances, stating that they are waiting for the enemy to become stationary, making it easier to target with artillery and fabs, all due to the lack of the ability to deploy UAVs. Again, when you are blind electronically, you have no drones, no recon drones, no fabs like guided aerial bombs. You actually have to wait for the enemy to stop, because if they're always moving, you cannot hit them. So they are waiting Ukrainians to stop right now, otherwise not much to do. Fighterbomber. Due to the rapidity of the long-awaited offensive, it is impossible to use attack and reconnaissance UAVs en masse in the Kursk region. The ping is high. Drones, except those of fiber optics, have all fallen. It turns out that this is possible, which means that targets can only be found using long forgotten methods, that is, through binoculars. We actually in the military In my military times, we had to learn locating targets and giving the coordinates to the crews with binoculars, our own eyes, just pinpointing the coordinates when we see them without any drones. Now, it is quite old of a method, and nowadays in Ukrainian war, as a soldier, you wouldn't even have to know how to do that, because every target, everything is pointed by drones, recon drones. Almost no artillery fire is pointed by just binoculars or eyesight. It's all drones. When you take the drones away, turns out most soldiers don't even know how to do that, how to pinpoint the target using eyesight or binoculars. And half of the time it is impossible because you're far away. You really cannot see the target. You're like 3 clicks away, 4 clicks away from it. So yeah, electronic warfare on the Ukrainian side doing Christmas miracles still. Fighterbomber says it is clear that the Ohoils, the Ukrainians, will be stopped. The only question is where. I think he would easily sacrifice tens of kilometers of his territory for 1 square meter of our land. More precisely, he's already donating. Now, this is the very first at all image of a Ukrainian counteroffensive. We can see 5 armored vehicles on this photo. It's a recon drone, possibly. I think it's a Ukrainian recon drone. The report says that Ukrainians also used anti-mining vehicles. So why are the Ukrainians using kind of the similar tactics like the Russians, using these convoys of armored vehicles? Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, minefields. Most of the frontal areas everywhere are mined, anti-personnel mines and anti-armor mines. So if you clear any area of mines, that's the area you gotta take to pass the frontal area, to pass the defensive lines, and usually it is a narrow pathway. That's why this is used. Secondly, you gotta be quick, you gotta move fast, so you cannot hold these big distance in between the vehicles. The first shots of the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, Kurshina, are published by Rosmi. Sorry, this is a Russian recon drone. Hey, what do you know? According to them, Ukrainian troops are advancing towards the Velike Soldatsky district and towards Kurchatov. Simultaneously with the Ukrainian advancing Kurshina, the Russian Federation began offensive actions towards the state border, they write in the network. And in the meantime, Deputy Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Yanuspek Yevkurov, who conducted negotiations during the Prigozhin uprising, arrived in the Kursk region. So the Deputy Defense Minister is present to handle the situation. Hey! Now here is another video. This time it's a video of Ukrainian troops advancing, and they're taking one very certain path. They are actually bypassing Russian minefields right here. This area, this narrow pathway has been cleared of mines, so it's better to stay on it. That's why they use these same convoy column offensive tactics as the Russians. There's really not much to do in this Ukrainian war. This is the only tactic. There are mines everywhere. There are drones everywhere. You gotta be fast and on a very narrow pathway. This Kursk offensive is quite massive of a topic, so just let's keep forcing through it. Russians spent 100 plus days attacking through mud uphill into occupied Kursk. Now Ukraine is attacking downhill over frozen hard ground into the tired Russians. That's called great planning. Now I gotta say, a lot of people say, oh, why are Ukrainians wasting their troops on Kursk? It has no strategic goals. It's just a patch of land. I mean, these Ukrainian troops are needed in the eastern Ukraine. The thing is, Trump's team has already forwarded their peace proposals to Putin's team, Putin's entourage, and they were pushed back. They were denied because of Kursk. Kursk is the sacred Mother Russia for Putin. He cannot accept any freezing of the front line or freezing of the conflict, which would also mean freezing Kursk. I mean, this would basically admit defeat, that the Ukrainians were able to take part of my Mother Russia, and I have to sue for peace, for ceasefire. He cannot do that. Ukrainians know this. Kursk is a Ukrainian bargaining chip. It might have no strategic or tactical importance in the war, on the battlefield, But it is their bargaining chip, so Russia could not freeze the conflict, which would be the worst outcome if the conflict would be frozen. Ukrainians are very smart with that. They take Kursk, they force about 200k Russian troops to be stationed there, and secondly, they make sure Putin cannot accept any Trump peace proposals because of Kursk. Now that's what I call great planning. By the way, this interesting clip came out. It's nothing special, but I just wanted to share an Abrams tank in Kursk. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's M1A1. I'd love to see one of those. Also, I'm not sure if I can show you this. I'll try to. Maybe I can show it with a filter. I mean, there's no explosion here, but this is an FPV footage from the Russians. We talk about, the strong Ukrainians' electronic warfare. Well, what does it actually look like? We have a video of it. Check it out. This is a video of a lost Russian FPV because of very strong Ukrainian jamming. By the way, we also have given these jammers to the Ukrainians with the pickup trucks. Look at that. It's closing down on the armored personnel carrier, and boom, there's a bubble of electronic jamming. All frequencies are filled. A bubble of about 100 meters. As soon as the FPV enters that 100 meters, 200, 300 feet, something like that, it just cannot see anything. It's going to fall to the ground. It cannot hit the target. That is what strong electronic warfare jamming means. It just renders your FPVs useless. Of course, Russians do have fiber optic cables. We're going to look at some footage later about that also. Oh, actually, here it is. So the only drones the Russians can use, since they cannot even use glide bombs, since the GPS is also jammed and Russian glide bombs need GPS, then they do use their fiber optic cables. Now, what are those? They are FPV drones, first-person view drones that have a very tiny and narrow cable attached to the back of them. It's such a weird thing. It's like the smallest cable, but it's physically connected, so you cannot jam it. So they are connected and they do attack, and we have plenty of videos from this Kursk offensive of Russians striking Ukrainian vehicles. So we have visually confirmed 10 plus Ukrainian tanks and armored personnel carriers destroyed by Russian fiber optic cable drones. So it's not like I'm just talking that, Ukrainians are advancing, it's a big victory for Ukraine. There are big losses on Ukrainian side and very big losses on Russian side. I mean, it's an offensive. This is how it is. Talking about these Ukrainian losses, I feel like I wouldn't talk the truth to you if I didn't show them to you. Now, this being YouTube, I'm not sure if I can, and we can get this video to you. But all of these videos, I'm not gonna focus them down one by one, but there is 10 videos here. Each and every one of them is different, of Russian fiber optic drones focusing down Ukrainian vehicles of this Kursk offensive. So there are Ukrainian losses, and I have reported them, so nobody can say I didn't. For the sake of the truth, let's take a look at who defends the area on the Russian side. So who are the Ukrainians actually attacking against? Good news. The area of Berdin in Kursk is being held by Kadyrovite Ahmad Special Forces groups under the command of General Abdi Alaudinov, who is best known for always having his large PR team, cameras and microphones close by. Yeah, this guy is one of the biggest TikToker in the Kadyrovite army. He loves his TikToks, he loves to run with weapons, shoot into the air, fire RPGs into the air. That's what they love doing. So they're not the best soldiers, but they do make cool videos. Some Russian proxies are expressing their concern about Ahmad performing their patented retrograde defensive assault maneuver. I love it. I'll read it again. Patented retrograde defensive assault maneuver. Whoa. And abandoning their positions. It will be interesting to see if they do decide to fight and how effective they are. Well, the answer is okay. No words needed. All right, let's take a look at a great analysis about this Kursk offensive. I mean, it only started yesterday. Nobody can really analyze it yet. We have no outcome of it. We know Ukrainian losses have already happened. We know of a lot of Russian losses in the area. But I gotta read you the summary. Ukrainians have continued their attacks in Kursk. Today, an armored column advanced towards Bolshoye Soldatskaya, and reportedly fighting is ongoing in other villages too. I find it unlikely that these actions could produce very significant results. I have different opinions than this thread, but I want you to hear this thread because the truth is in the middle somewhere. The Ukrainians are facing a stronger enemy. It's possible they achieve some tactical success with the elements of surprise, and in the best case scenarios, they may be able to enter some villages. In the big picture, however, the general situation will likely remain the same. The Ukrainians have lost more than half of the area in Kursk that they controlled at most in August-September 2024. Even if the new attacks were to advance 10 kilometers, the battles will still be fought in the same general areas where the fighting has been going for months. Now, Emil Kastehelmi here says that Ukrainians have lost more than half of what they held. He says this as this is a negative thing. I don't think so. It's not how modern warfare is. Territory in this war, since territories are so fast, is not connected to if you win or lose the war or the battle. Ukrainians took 1,000 square kilometers of Kursk. Now, they sent about 15k, 20k troops there. This forced Russians to send about 150k troops to push them back, and they have been pushing Ukrainians back. So let's take a look at the sheer numbers. 10 to 20k, 10 to 20,000 Ukrainian troops are holding up, pinning down 150,000 Russian troops, forcing those troops away from Ukrainian homeland into Russia to push back a 1,000 square kilometer small salient in Russia, which has no strategic or tactical importance. Now, this is a victory, forcing enemy's reserves into where you want them. Russians have been attacking Ukrainian salient of Kursk in the mud for the last 3 months. It's Rasputitsa, the mud and rain season. Convoy after convoy going daily, huge losses, North Koreans, all of that topic. Ukrainians do not need to hold this Kursk, just hold on to it. They need Russian troops there away from Ukraine. They need these North Koreans there away from Ukraine. And this has been achieved. Now, if they counterattack, they again enlarge this salient. Putin is forced again to send more reserves to push them back again, and Ukrainians will give away their territory that they have controlled. But they will save the lives of their men, and they will pinpoint 150,000 Russian troops who cannot fight in Ukraine because they have to fight in Kursk. That is the main goal. That is why I see Kursk as a massive success. It is very difficult to gather a force strong enough to make new operationally significant changes to the situation. Even if the Ukrainians switched focus towards Klushkova, it would still be an attempt that has already failed once. Also, if the Ukrainians were to advance in Bolshoye Soldatskaya, they would be making gains in the furthest corners of the salient, which would stretch the front line without widening the flanks, which the Russians have been gradually pushing back in the last few months. And again, my prediction is whatever the Ukrainians take here, Russians will push it back. Probably in the next 6 months, Russians again are able to slowly, meter by meter, take it all back. What's the price of that? How many troops have to be focused there, away from Donbass, away from Pokrovsk? That's the goal of the Ukrainians. This concludes Kursk topic for today. In Wednesday, I'll give you everything new again that happens there, and we have a lot more information. Now, my friends, I wanted to focus for the first time in this year of 2025. I want to focus on the biggest supporters of this channel, and these are the regular monthly members of Buy Me a Coffee. I'll be butchering 5 names with my Estonian pronunciation. Giku. Giku means like a tooth in Estonian. As a small kid would say I have a tooth. Tom Ruskton. Khe Putter Snaps. Rolf Kall. Gary Hirtman. Thank you. If you like my channel, become a monthly member of Buy Me a Coffee. Link is in the description below. All right, before we go on to the Lex Friedman clips, he's one of the biggest, if one of the biggest podcasters in the world, in the top 15. And he interviewed Zelensky for 3 hours. We're going to look at the best clips of that interview. But first, I just want to go through what happened in the Christmas and during New Year's, all of the cool clips. And after that, we're going to look at Lex Friedman. First of all, just to give you an idea through what the Russians have attacked Ukrainians in Kursk for the last 3 to 4 months, you will see it here. Russians have not stopped their assault operations because of mud. This is, of course, I think it's a Caesar howitzer, it's on the Ukrainian side, but it just shows you the conditions. Right now the ground is frozen, but the last 3 months, through this is what Russians attacked Ukrainians. And slowly by slowly they pushed the Ukrainians back, but with a very high price. This mud, everything the Europeans, for example, send to Ukraine. Oh, we have this very advanced tank, Challenger, Abrams, I mean, it's an American tank, and Leopard tank. They are developed in great conditions, right? Dry areas, they're tested. Put them into this hellhole, put them into this mud and grind them down for a month in it. And if they still work, then they're good vehicles. Most of them don't. In Europe, a small advice to you, you make a new vehicle, hey, send it to Ukraine. If it survives Rasputitsa, if it doesn't, you gotta redo it. If it does, then it's ready. It gotta survive this. This is what war is in Eastern Europe during this time. Now, very quickly, we're gonna look at Ukrainian animal enthusiasts, because as I always say, I don't see these kind of videos coming out from the Russian side, and I do watch some Russian Telegram channels just to know what they're talking about, and I only see Ukrainians doing this. Where are you taking the cats? Evacuation. Are you gonna send it home? Of course. There are the kinds of people we have in our company. How many of these do you have now? About 80. Dude has 80 cats. He's a cat lady. It's a nice life. You have 80 cats, you're fine. You're not alone. He's just kidding. He sends cats like these home. Look at this nice little kitty cat. Say hi, kitty. I'm really a cat person. How much of your salary goes towards them? Half of it? Maybe about 25%. Alright, I'm gonna leave this video here. I don't want to take up too much of your time with this, but it's just a heartwarming clips always. Now we go to Kursk Strait, because you remember right before I went to my vacation, one tanker broke in half, then another one, and then even the third one that I don't think I reported because I was already resting then. But 3 Russian tankers of the Shadow Fleet, they were river tankers by the way, were broken apart by waves in the Kursk Strait. They were carrying mazout, which is like a very heavy fuel oil, and it's now all over the Kursk Strait 3 weeks later. Let's see the outcome of it. We are in the area where the birds were released yesterday. What birds are they talking about? Well, the birds that the Russian Ministry of Ecology, they saved the birds, cleaned them up from mazout and released them. Because the mazout is everywhere on the Kerch beach lines. It's horrible. It's all black, like animals are dying. Well, they tried to fix it. They took the birds, cleaned them up, and now they released them. But it's Russia, so let's see the outcome of these saved birds. It's definitely here because we found the box that the bird was apparently transported in. This one box, but there were like thousands of birds. Thousands of boxes. Well, here is the result, guys. Oh, it's a dead bird. 1, 2, there's third over there, a fourth one. There's fifth, 6th, 7th, 8th. Oh, you get the point. You get the point. And there's the rest of the flock. There's a lot of them floating in the sea. There are a lot of dead birds on the beach. Well, what happens when the Russians try to save the birds from the mazout? Up to 90% of the birds rescued in Anapa after the Kerch Strait oil spill died during transportation, according to Russian Telegram channels. Some deaths were attributed to rough handling of the boxes during transfer between trucks, but the main cause was premature release of the birds by regional Ministry of Natural Resource employees, ignoring the need for rehabilitation and the continued mazout pollution of the habitat. They attempted to return the birds into the wild. Volunteers later found dozens of dead birds along the Anapa coast. So yeah, I mean, even if you want to do some good in Russia, it's Russia. You cannot turn shit into gold. At the meantime, when you and I were resting in Christmas, the Russians managed to shoot down another civilian airliner. I'm saying this like this is nothing, just another news. I mean, it's massive. This is massive news. I cannot show you much of it, but this is the wreckage of it. Now, it was shot down from Grozny, Chechnya, with a Russian, I think it was Pantsir air defense. I could be wrong here. And this, Russians have made massive history with this. This is all the civilian airliners they have shot down. Finnish Airlines, Korean Airlines, Malaysian Airlines, you all know about that one. Lufthansa Airlines, Korean Airlines, and the latest one, which I'm talking about now, is the Azerbaijan Airlines. 24th of December 2024. So this was Christmas Day. They shot it down. It's a pattern for the Russians. What else happened? Well, Moldova, it's west from Ukraine, has a Russian separatist region called Transnistria. Now, Ukraine warned a year ago already, and they said, we're going to cut the Russian gas supply through Ukraine from January 1st, 2025. And they did. So one Russian pipeline went through Ukraine to Europe. Hungary got gas from it, Moldova and Transnistria got gas from it. And Ukrainians were warning about it 1 year ago, and they did it now. They cut the supplies. Transnistria. Due to the lack of Russian gas, a humanitarian catastrophe is brewing there. Rolling blackouts are becoming longer. Industry has stopped. Gas and local coal reserves are running out. Moldovan public are already writing that in months, Moldovan police forces will be able to enter Transnistria, possibly together with Ukrainian ones. The thing is, Transnistria, separatist region, pro-Russian region of Moldova. It's one of the biggest regions. Moldova cannot join the EU. It's like the Eastern Ukraine was for Ukraine in 2014. They got all their gas, like 90% from Russia. Now they don't. Moldova has already said, hey, we're going to help you out. We're going to buy gas from the EU. You cannot, like right now, literally, homes are cold. They cannot cook. They cannot get heat. You might think, oh, they might get some more expensive gas. There's no gas. Nothing. Transnistria, 500,000 people, about 500,000 should live there. They have no gas. Apartments are cold. It's like -3, 4, sometimes 0 degrees there. It's a humanitarian catastrophe by their own choice, because Moldova government already said, we're going to buy gas from the EU and send it to you. And Transnistria government said, we don't want these supplies from the EU because they're untrustworthy. We're going to wait for the Russian gas. There's going to be no Russian gas. Gazprom from Russia officially announced that they stopped supplying gas to Transnistria because because Transnistria owes them like 700 million or something. It's a beef between them. It's a very old debt. Anyway, Transnistrian government are very stubborn and waiting for Russian gas, which Russians officially confirmed is not coming, and they're not accepting the EU gas. 500,000 people are very cold, they're getting sick, they're old people. It's a bad situation. So I do hope this cold will make them softer and allow the government to accept the Romanian gas, the EU gas, because people need warmth. They need to cook. The children need to be warm. Another thing that happened when we both were away, maybe you were not away, maybe you were watching, but Ukrainian maritime drone, sea drone, I think it was Magura V5, shot down a Russian chopper of the Black Sea. Now, this is the very first time a sea drone, unmanned drone, shoots down an aerial vehicle. Check it out. Due to their air defense upgrade, Ukrainian USVs have not only decisively shifted the power balance in naval shipping in the Black Sea, but also caused Russian aerial vehicles, especially helicopters, reduced mobility. The coast of the Russian-occupied Crimea is now an absolute danger zone for the Russian pilots, and this in turn enables Ukrainian forces to strike the Russian coast at Anapa, Tuapse and Sochi more easier than before, threatening Russian shipping, both naval and commercial. What are we talking about? Well, there's a video of it and it's beautiful. It's straight out of a Call of Duty game. Of course, you have seen clips like these. This is a Ukrainian marine drone, and you can see it that the chopper is shooting at it. Look at the muzzle, like the bullets hitting the water. It's awesome. And it takes aim at the chopper, Look at the, oh my, look at this. This is full Call of Duty game. I'm sorry, I'm like 13 again. And it sees the chopper, takes aim. It has an anti-air defense capability installed on top of the drone. Takes aim, shoots, and boom, the chopper gets hit and it goes down into the water. We have a clip of that also. Wait, give me a moment. Give me a moment, sorry. Boom, it goes down. This is magnificent, this is history, and it changes a lot of the power balance on the Black Sea. Ukraine has no manned navy, even comparable to the size of the Russian navy. But the Russians are still not able to use the Black Sea freely. They're not even able to fly on it anymore freely, because Ukrainian drones will just shoot the ships, make them into submarines, and shoot down the choppers, as we see here. Is big. Now, final topic of what happened before we go on to the Lex Friedman. And this is my country, Estonia. It very much connects to me because Russians with the Chinese, I mean, their joint works with the Shadow Fleet, they broke an underwater electric cable between Estonia and Finland. You might think, oh, it's a small thing. There's tens of cables. No, my friends. First, before I read it to you, let's look at the photo. This is the Baltic states. The orange lines you see right here, and the lines are electric cables. Like every electricity output and input we get is from 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 lines. One goes from Lithuania to Poland, one goes from Lithuania to Sweden, and 2 go from Estonia to Finland. This is all the power we get from the EU through these 4 cables. The rest comes from Russia and Belarus. We don't want that. I'm going to read it to you. But the thing is, if you take out these cables, we are fully dependent on Russian and Belarusian electricity. It's very big. One of these cables is destroyed by a Russian Chinese ship. Let's read it. Analysis of the situation with Estlink 2 cable and predictions about Nord-Balt cable by Belarusian political analyst Ihar Tishkiewicz. The underwater electricity cable Estlink 2 connecting the Finnish and Estonian power grids has been damaged. And it was no accident. Although the ship crew claimed it was, they dragged their anchor for tens of kilometers, just trying to cut the cable, and they did. It is one of the 2 cables that have combined capacity of up to 1 gigawatt. Estlink 2 provides 650 megawatts. No catastrophe has occurred. Neither the Finnish nor Estonian power grids collapsed, but it is worth taking a broader view of the problem. By the way, Estonian electricity prices got 1/10 more expensive because of it. So Russians just have to drag their anchor of the ship through the bottom of the Baltic Sea to just hike our energy prices. That's how it is. And the fixing of this cable costs about 50 million or something. 30 to 50 million, it takes about half a year. So for 6 months, they were able to just spike our energy prices just like that. Very dangerous. The energy system of the Baltic states was and still is a part of the BREL, Belarus, Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, a ring during the Soviet era. Moreover, the Baltic countries themselves are energy consumers but not exporters. And we have, and we're going on with it, the Baltics have established a deadline and every measure has been taken. February 2025, this year, the Baltics will disconnect from the BREL, from the Russia-Belarus network, and connect to the EU network. So we will get all our energy from there. But now we have only 4 connections, only 4 from the Baltics to the EU. 2 from Estonia and 2 from Lithuania. Now 1 of them is destroyed. We have 3 left. Russia has their Shadow Fleet in the Baltic Sea. They can destroy all the cables if they want to, if the NATO countries on the Baltic Sea don't very aggressively stop them. If they do destroy all these cables, the Baltics are physically unable to join the EU power grid and have to forcefully stay connected to the Russian and Belarus power grid because we don't produce enough electricity ourselves. We have to import. So it's either the EU or Russia-Belarus. Russia is now breaking the cables to make sure we are physically connected to them, not the EU. Since 2013, the construction of 3 power transmission lines under the Baltic Sea has started. These are the mentioned Estlink and Nord-Balt. The latter, with a capacity of 700 megawatts, connects the Republic of Lithuania with Swedish energy system. In parallel, the construction of transmission lines in the direction of Poland has been developing, as well as its own generating capabilities. I'm not going to read you the rest, but you get the idea. There's 3 more connections, and in 2 months actually, the Baltics are scheduled to connect to EU power grid, relying solely on these 3 remaining connections, which are, as we saw, quite easy to break by a random ship dragging a random anchor at a random place. Boom, the power cable is broken and Estonians pay more for electricity. I mean, if you break them all, we gotta import electricity from Russia physically. There's no other place. So we are in a dangerous situation. By the way, the Finnish Navy stopped the ship and the special forces landed on the ship. It was really cool. So the Finnish, huge respect to you guys. All right, my friends, time for Lex Fridman. Now, Lex Fridman is one of the biggest in the top 15 world podcasters. He has millions of viewers. A very big percentage of his viewers are MAGA or pro-Russian people. So in a way, people think that Lex Fridman is pro-Russian. Now, I'm not claiming that. What I am saying is it's good that he did this podcast because pro-Russian people usually don't watch Zelensky speaking. But if Lex Fridman interviews him, they do. So it's a great way to reach people who have pro-Russian mindset to listen to Zelensky. And Zelensky is a fantastic speaker. So, but it started with a beef. Why? Because Lex Fridman publicly tweeted that he is annoyed that Zelensky refuses to do the interview with him in Russian. Lex speaks Russian. Zelensky speaks Russian. They both speak also English. So Zelensky said, we're going to do it in English or Ukrainian. I will not speak Russian. Lex Fridman didn't like that and posted that, hey, we got to do it in Russian. This is where people got really angry at him, saying he's pro-Russian, why you got to force it. But they still did the interview. It was 3 hours or longer. And I will now show you 5 of the best clips that I think, it's like 1 minute each clip. 5 of the best clips. I really like them. By the way, Zelensky did phenomenal. Like Lex provoked him with these questions, trying to get some information that maybe his pro-Russian viewers need to know. And these are questions you and me, like we know the answer to. But Zelensky was like a beast answering them. He didn't lose his cool and... let's watch it. First of all, yeah, the language issue. Zelensky will now open it up for us. And I really enjoy how he speaks. Like the dude has a massive charisma.
We speak in Russian.
I speak Russian perfectly, of course, and I understand everything you are talking about. However, I can't respond in Russian the entire interview. It's because this is how it is today. I am not making anything up. You can see it all for yourself. You can feel and hear it. Today, there were 73 missile attacks against us, and people were killed. There were over 100 drones today, and this is a daily occurrence. The people who attack us, they speak Russian. They attack people who were only recently told that this was actually in defense of Russian-speaking people. And this is why I respect neither the leader or director of today's Russia, nor the people. That's it.
So, Zelensky brings out a beautiful point, a truthful point, how Russian language is a weapon. English might not be a weapon, Spanish might not be a weapon, but Russian language is a weapon. It's an export from Russia. They export Russian-speaking people. They encourage these people never to learn any other language, never to assimilate themselves into any other people's group. They are the Russians that Putin is protecting by invading all these countries. We have these Russians in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Finland, everywhere. And in Donbass in Ukraine, where Putin was forced to invade to protect them. Well, this is why Zelensky doesn't speak Russian. It's a weapon. And by using that language, you are giving strength to that weapon. It's like a fear. Russians export fear. It's a weapon. If you're afraid, they win. So, don't speak Russian. That's very nicely put by Zelensky. Now, this is another very awesome point by Zelensky. Lex Fridman suggests that Ukrainians should forgive Russians. Here is Zelensky's answer.
I understand, but unfortunately, the reality is that a compromise is needed in order to reach an agreement.
So, in your understanding, the fact that he is in jailed after all the murders, he is not in jailed assuming all the murders, and no one in the world is able to put him in his place. send him to prison. Do you think this is a small compromise?
This is not a small compromise, and to forgive him will not be a small compromise.
To forgive, no one will forgive. This is absolutely impossible to forgive him. We cannot get into the head and soul of a person who lost their family. Nobody never will accept this. Absolutely impossible. I don't know, do you have children?
No, not yet,
Okay.
but I would like to.
Yes. God bless. And this is the most important thing in life. And they simply took away the most precious thing from you, will you ask? Who ruined your life before going to rip their head off?
Children, the most important thing in life. Putin took thousands of them away, deported or killed. Will you forgive? Great points. Estonians know this. I mean, deported Latvians, Lithuanians. Look, I don't want to go into it again. You know all the story, but there is no forgiveness of this. We don't forget also. This is not going away. You cannot undo this, what has happened. The rift between the Ukrainians and Russians is not temporary. It is there to stay for centuries. Now, Zelensky talks about Trump. And again, I really like it how it is, because again, I'm not the biggest fan of Trump, but I cannot deny his influence and the effect of his upcoming presidency already, that it already has the European leaders. Now, again, I'm not a fan of Trump, but I believe, I want things to happen which his presence already is making happen in Europe. I want European leaders to wake up and raise the defense spending. They're doing that in fear of Trump. I might not be a fan of Trump, but I like the result, so I gotta give him the respect. Let's see what Zelensky says about it.
It won't be long, because Europe will be looking at us and will be looking at Trump. And by the way, I now see that when I talk about something with Donald Trump, whether we meet in person or we just have a call, all the European leaders always ask, how was it? This shows the influence of Donald Trump. And this has never happened before with an American president.
Yes, and I gotta agree. We in Estonia, we have talked about this ever since 91 when we got our country back, to the Europeans. Wake up. You're asleep. Wake up. You gotta defend yourselves. You're being used. This is an energy weapon. Nord Stream 2, it's a weapon against Germany. Nobody listened. Now they do. But Trump talked about it already in 2016, and now in fear of Trump pulling out of NATO, European leaders are raising their defense budgets. Estonians couldn't get Europe to do that because we are small. They don't listen to us. But the effect is the same now. So I gotta give Trump the respect. I gotta respect the results. And a final thought of summary of this interview. If you don't know who Lex Friedman is, I mean, I didn't watch any of his podcasts before. I watched this one. My thoughts on Zelensky and Friedman interview. Worth watching. Zelensky absolutely nailed it. Articulate, informative, calm, witty, charismatic, exceeded my expectations. Respect to Lex for giving Zelensky the platform to speak. But man, I don't know, his dream of Putin negotiation comes from naivety, ignorance, or bad faith, but it's entirely inconsistent with reality and how Putin has conducted himself for the past 25 years. Yeah, Lex shares, I don't know if he asks these questions on purpose, but you can tell he's either naive or incredibly stupid. I don't know which one is it. But Zelensky stood his ground and was calm and patient and explained it like he would explain to a kindergarten, because apparently Lex doesn't know this stuff. But anyway, I still think it's good, because giving platform to Zelensky, although a big portion of your viewers are maybe pro-Russian, it's a very brave thing to do. You might lose viewers. I know this as a military blogger, so I gotta give respect to Lex for doing this, to interview Zelensky. So, pro-Ukrainian people hate Lex Friedman. Pro-Russian people love him. I give him respect for giving platform to Zelensky. And I suggest you go and watch the interview. It's a very good listen. My friends, thank you for coming back if you have. Always with me, it's scary to take vacations for me. I never did for the last years, but I have to now, because I am going to have a family and I have to focus on it. I have to force myself to take vacations, but I'm always afraid that you guys don't come back, and if I do come back, I don't have a job anymore. So if you did come back, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You make my job possible. It's all because I have watchers. If nobody watches me, there's no videos, no point in making videos. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for supporting me and buying me a coffee. And I'll be doing videos for you again Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every 3 times a week. Until next video, which will be on Wednesday. Be back. Slava Ukraini. And bye-bye.